Welcome back, everyone. Before we get into this, I just want to let you know that I've been going through something recently, and I planned to make a video last weekend, but just didn't have the energy for it. I wanted to make a video about the Boston New York game last week because it was probably the most intense game in PWHL history, but that'll have to wait until the next time they play. For now, the league is on international break, and we're about to head into the second leg of the Rivalry series, so let's talk about that today. In the past, this has been my favorite Canada-USA matchup to watch, given that we didn't have a pro-unified women's league at the time, and this was the key way to showcase the best talent in the game. My question to you now is, do you think that it should be continued now that we have the PWHL? Sometimes an international break can help teams with injured players recover, but at the same time, since their best players are playing this series and the best Europeans are playing in the Euro Hockey Tour, it's possible for them to get injured and not be available for league games, as we saw with someone like Taylor Heisey last season. And I think Poulin also dealt with something as well. They did take a step this year by shortening the series to 5 games as opposed to 7, but I originally thought that they wouldn't continue it this year, given especially that Heisey was hurt last year. Me personally, I think it still should continue, given that it's a fun little matchup, and the game is still growing, and this is how we're going to do it. The risk we have with league games is that players may get hurt and won't be able to compete on the international stage, as we saw with USA having to replace 4 of their selected players. Since they did have to make 4 replacements, I'm sure the question that's on everybody's mind is, why did they not pick Abby Boreen, the second highest scorer on Montreal? She even came out and said that she hasn't received a call from USA Hockey, so it can't be that she refused the invite. And it's not due to her school commitments either, because she did say that she wants to play for the team if given a chance. It was also questioned whether or not that maybe her playing for Montreal would have been a factor, but that can't be because Anna Wilgren was on the original roster and they picked Maureen Murphy and Claire DeGeorge as replacements. I don't even know how you pick Murphy and DeGeorge over Boreen. Like, DeGeorge has spent all season on the 4th line, and she was even a healthy scratch in her last game. Murphy has spent part-time as the 13th forward and played on the 4th line. She's moved around in the lineup. Now, this is not a knock on DeGeorge, obviously. I've liked the role she's provided for Montreal this season. She brings size and depth. But on average, she's only playing like 8 to 10 minutes a game, and she's on the national team? Like, how do you pick her? Like, why didn't you go with someone like Abby Rock? I know it seems like she's fallen out of favor within the system. She does have a tendency to be undisciplined, take bad penalties. She's not best defensively. This even goes back to last year's draft when Minnesota had 3 different chances to draft her and they chose not to. Like, does someone on USA Hockey dislike her or something? Thought she fit in well playing on the top line with Taylor Heisey and Kendall Coyne Schofield during the playoffs. There's got to be something behind the scenes that we don't know about. I don't really want to bring politics into this, but I did see the hockey news talk about how possibly they're not favoring her due to the fact that she was playing with Poulin. She got a chance to play on the top line with her while Laura Stacey missed a few games, and she's awesome. She even got to stay there when Stacey came back due to confidence from coach, most likely. Now, obviously, I am Canadian, so I do want to see Canada beat them, but at the same time, I want to see them beat their best roster. And looking at this roster they put out for this part of the series, I just don't think it's their best. I don't see them being super competitive as I think they should be. I know the reason Lee Steckline isn't there is because she chose to retire from international competition. They even still picked Nicole Hensley as one of their goalies over Maddie Rooney, who I believe has had the better season so far in Minnesota. Is it just me, or has Rooney decided not to play for the national team either? Because she hasn't been there recently, but I think she still has what it takes. Even though I am disappointed with their choices, let's try to bring on a happier mood here. I do like that they're giving some people who haven't had a chance for the national team a chance to play. Let's see how they mesh well with the more experienced group of veterans there. Now for Canada, they've made a few changes to their roster. Micah Zandy Hart and Sophie Jakes are being brought back, and they're also bringing back Jennifer Gardner to the roster, who's been excellent in Montreal this season. Shout out to my fellow BC native. My message to the coach is keep her, Poulin, and Stacey together. After being hurt last season, Zandy Hart has returned to the form I expected her to have. She's been a big factor in New York's turnaround this season. With Jakes, I was initially surprised that they went with her due to the fact that she missed some time this season with an injury. She's taken over Jamie Bourbonnet's spot in the roster. She hasn't been used as much as she was last season in New York, so I don't know if she's in their future plans. She's been getting a lot less ice time. Jakes has been a great two-way player with Minnesota, and she's still only 24, so I think she can be used on this national team a lot more in the future. As for player snubs, I'm not sure if there were any, but maybe Jesse Eldridge, who's been great for New York. Now, at the end of the day, the objective here is to build the best team, not always necessarily just find the best players. But at the same time, Fillier is on the roster. I wouldn't see her and Eldridge play together. As of late, Eldridge and Fillier haven't been on the same line together, but at the beginning of the season they were, along with Alex Carpenter, and I love that trio. I wanted to see Fillier and Eldridge play together in the national team. Perhaps maybe if she keeps it up, she can make it onto the roster for the Worlds, but I don't know. She doesn't seem to be very high on the team's radar. The team also picked Corinne Schroeder this time around over Kristen Campbell due to Schroeder having an elite season and Campbell struggling out of the gate. If Canada wins Game 4, I'd like to see them give Schroeder a run in Game 5 due to the fact that they've already will have won the series at that point. Debian and Mashmeyer obviously are the 1 and 2, so they're going to be ahead of her, and most likely one of them will play in Game 4. What I'm hoping for this time around is for a key player not to get hurt due to the fact that before the season, Poulin and Barnes collided on the boards, and Barnes almost was in danger of missing the start of the season. But luckily, she was able to return for Game 1. Something I didn't mention yet is that USA has a lot of rookies on their roster, so their roster is quite interesting. I'm excited to see how they match up against Canada. I already talked about how I think they're not as competitive as I think they should be. Anyways, those are my final thoughts on the rosters as well as the Boreen situation. If you enjoyed, don't forget to leave it a like as well as subscribe so you don't miss any of my new posts. Let me know your thoughts as well as why you think they possibly didn't pick Boreen. I'm curious to know. I'll see you next time. Bye.